I firmly believe the storyline of this game isn't that Alabama lost, it's that Tennessee straight up exposed that team. And you want to know what's bad about this if you're a Bama fan? Other teams you play in this season, they're going to turn on this film and do the exact same thing that Tennessee did. I don't want to say I'm worried or concerned, because in reality I'm not. As long as Mr. Bryce Young is a quarterback for the University of Alabama, I'm not concerned. I don't care what the circumstance is. We got a great shot of winning every single game. To go along with that, we all know this. You cannot, and I mean absolutely, you cannot count out Nick Saban. Don't matter. He's just one guy you don't bet against. For the past 7 or 8 years, when everyone tries to say, oh, maybe the dynasty's fallen off, maybe Nick Saban is losing his touch, it never happens. Come on, man. It's deja vu. We see this happen every single year. Alabama loses a heartbreaking game, whether that's in the regular season or in the national championship or the playoff, and everybody tries to start this argument and talk, whoa, maybe the dynasty is slowly falling off. I think that's ludicrous and ridiculous to say, because as long as Nick Saban is the head coach there, Alabama's always going to be a top 5 team. I don't care what anybody says, and if you think otherwise, you're an idiot. Now, if you want to try to tell me that whenever Nick Saban leaves, the dynasty will fall off, I agree with that 100%, so you're not telling me something I don't already know. Anyways, getting a move on, I said all that to say this. I am currently 22 years old, which means ever since I could start keeping up with and fully understanding football around the age 7 or 8, Alabama has always been the best team. That's so unreal and insane to think about. If you're from the age of 20 to 25 and you're a Bama fan, we've been good your entire life. And not just good, let me go back on that statement, but competing for championships every single year. Trust me when I say this, I do not take any of this for granted. Every single year, I appreciate greatness because I know it's always not going to be like this. There's just no way it can always be this good. Things will go downhill. Whether that's in 10 years, 20 years or 30 years, it will eventually happen. But for now, the dynasty isn't even close to falling off. We are still the gold standard. We are still the team. When you beat us, you storm the field after every single win. Why does every team storm the field? Because they're the best. When you beat Alabama, it's rare. It's like a solar eclipse. Beating Alabama is a signature win. It's something you can tell your kids about. And if you don't believe me, I can guarantee you this. Tennessee fans are going to be talking about that game for the next 25 years. To me, as an Alabama fan, if you want me to be brutally honest, this Tennessee game doesn't really matter. It's never mattered for the past 15 seasons. Once again, I have to say this. Do not get me wrong. I'm a competitor. I'm the most competitive person you'll ever meet in this life. I want to win every single game. But, and I have a big but, what have I said about this Alabama-Tennessee game? On the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. Whether Alabama loses, whether Tennessee loses, it doesn't matter. They will both control their own destiny. If Alabama runs the table from here on out, they're going to be in the playoff. If Tennessee, if they would have lost Alabama and ran the table and beat Georgia and beat Alabama in the SEC championship, they'd be in the playoff. Going back to what I said, though, when I stated this game's not really a big deal to me, did you see me talking about the game last year or the year before when we beat Tennessee? No, because like I said, it's not a big deal. Come on now, think about it. For the past 15 years, have you really seen Alabama fans throwing a huge party or making a big deal about beating Tennessee? No. Let me make this clear because I know you're going to have some Tennessee fans trying to say I'm hating on them and throwing shade. I'm not. I'm just telling you the facts. I get it 100%. If I was a Tennessee fan, I'd be doing the exact same thing. Y'all got so much anger built up for the past 15 years. I applaud y'all what you're doing, and it makes the sport 10 times better. I thought it was funny because after the game, I'm having a terrible time, and I got people on Twitter sending me videos of apparently somehow, some way, Tennessee took down the goalpost. I knew that was going to happen, but they put it in the river. I don't even know how that happened, and I also don't understand why you would do that, but it was funny. I got to emphasize this. I get it. Alabama fans, you hate Tennessee. I, for one, I've had nothing but great experiences when talking to Tennessee fans. I don't have a problem with them. I don't have a problem with the team, the fans, anybody, but getting back on track and topic with the main reason I'm making this video, what happens every single time Alabama loses? Oh, well, yeah, they didn't really lose the game. Alabama, they beat themselves. I'm telling you this right now. Every single time Alabama has lost outside that blowout game against Clemson in the national championship, I always felt like Alabama beat themselves and the other team wasn't better. I always felt like it was one of those fluke wins and it was destiny that Alabama was going to lose the game. And I always, and let me emphasize this, I always felt like Alabama was still the better team. But after thinking about it, going back and watching the film the past couple of days, I've came to the conclusion that Alabama just flat out got exposed. I have never felt this way about an Alabama football team ever since I've been keeping up with them for my entire life. Here's a fun fact for you. You know Matt likes his fun facts. Alabama has 66 penalties this season, and that is the most in the SEC. Yeah, I would say that's embarrassing. Oh, but it doesn't just stop there. That's not the worst in the SEC. That's the worst in the entire country. Yes, that's right. You heard me correctly. Alabama ranks 131 out of 131 when it comes to penalties this season. Remember what everybody was saying, including myself, in that Texas game? Man, Alabama had 15 penalties against Texas. It was just one of those uncanny games. Alabama's more and just way more disciplined than that. It's not going to happen again. And well, what do you know? We are more than halfway through the regular season, and now it's not a fluke. This is who Alabama is. It's not a coincidence or a fluke. You're the most penalized team in the entire country. Not just the SEC, the entire country. You're going to have some of those Bama fans try to claim, man, the refs have been against us all season long. No, they haven't. Let's just be real here. Yeah, maybe that one pass interference against Tennessee, we already talked about it, wishy-washy. But the other 16 penalties were well-deserved. If you disagree with that, you obviously haven't watched the film. I watched the film, I looked at everything. That's pretty bad. Not going to rant on that too much, but here's also something else I found rather interesting. So your normal and casual fan will be like, well, dang, why don't we switch up the defense? We keep doing the same thing over and over. We can't stop them. Switch it up. And well, to answer that question, Nick Saban actually stated in an interview they did switch it up. It just didn't work. Nick Saban even stated it himself word for word. We just couldn't cover the guys. I know a lot of times in sports, whenever your team loses, you never blame the players. You always blame the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and the head coach. But sometimes the players got to make plays. You can put these players in position to succeed, but if they don't execute the play, then what do you expect? And I'm honestly so tired of it. I talk about it every single season. Every time Alabama loses, what all the fans say, fire Pete Golden, fire the offensive coordinator, fire everybody. Well, have you ever thought about maybe our players just didn't play good? That's what I think it is, and I don't know what it is. Maybe I got a soft spot for Bill O'Brien, but I think he's doing an okay job. Yes, he makes some stupid play calls here and there, but he calls 100 plays a game. Not everyone's going to be good. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying Bill O'Brien's the greatest offensive coordinator to ever walk this earth, but I think he's doing an okay job. For Pete Golden on defense, maybe it is time to move on from him, but he put the players in a position to succeed. They didn't make plays. So as a fan, I'm asking you, why don't you look somewhere else? Why don't you just look at our players and go, well, hey, maybe we just ain't better than Tennessee. Maybe Tennessee's wide receiver, the one guy that nobody even talked about who went off for 200 yards and 5 touchdowns, maybe he's better than DeMarco Hellens. For those of you that don't know, DeMarco Hellens is a cornerback for Alabama that got burnt on every single play. The only thing I question about Pete Golden, who's the defense coordinator for Alabama, is why were we only blitzing 3 or 4 guys? Here's another fun fact for you. Alabama against Texas A&M had 19 quarterback hurries. For those of you that don't know, a quarterback hurry is not a sack, but it's when you get close to him. It's when you put pressure on him. Pete Golden, he blitzed a lot against Haynes King, which is the quarterback for Texas A&M, but against Tennessee, guess how many quarterback hurries Alabama had? What do you think it is? Probably 5 or 10? Nope, they had 0. Alabama's defense with Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, arguably the best front 7 in the country, had 0 quarterback hurries. That's not the players' fault. We were having to drop 8 in coverage, so more times than not, we were blitzing 3, 4 guys every single play. Rarely did we blitz 5 guys, and I don't ever think we blitzed 6. And then one time when we did blitz 5 guys, we got an interception because we put pressure on them. And even though we put pressure on them, in my opinion, it still wasn't a quarterback hurry. And also, you know what? Why don't we do this? And even I'm a victim of this myself. Every time Alabama loses, the storyline isn't, oh, Ole Miss, Auburn, Tennessee, they beat them. The storyline is Alabama lost. Why don't we do this? How about we give Tennessee some credit? Hendon Hooker is arguably the Heisman frontrunner. He's played phenomenal this year. It's hard to say any other quarterback has played better. Well, actually, let me go back on that statement. Bryce Young has played better this year. He's the best player in all college football. It's unfortunate he won't win the Heisman Trophy, but we all know Bryce Young's the best quarterback in the country. If you still think C.J. Stroud is better than Bryce Young after watching that Tennessee-Alabama game, you've lost your mind. Now, when it comes down to an NFL prospect, maybe C.J. Stroud's better because he's taller and has a slightly stronger arm, but at the college level, no. Tennessee's star wide receiver, who I've never heard of, never heard anything about him before the game against Bama, Jalen Hyatt, hope I'm saying that correctly, he had over 200 yards and 5 touchdowns. Hey man, I gotta clap it up for him. Incredible performance. It was awesome to see. Even though it hurt me, it was still awesome. You want to know what's even sadder about this? Tennessee didn't even have their star wide receiver in this game and their starting safety. I don't think the starting safety would have mattered, but the fact they didn't have their star wide receiver, that should tell you how bad Alabama played. Alabama was letting future insurance salesmen burn them for 200 yards. I firmly believe the storyline of this game isn't that Alabama lost, it's that Tennessee straight up exposed that team. And you want to know what's bad about this if you're a Bama fan? Other teams you play in this season, they're going to turn on this film and do the exact same thing that Tennessee did. I know some of y'all are going to call me crazy for saying this, but I still believe Alabama has a good defense. They got some dudes on that team. Kool-Aid McKinstry, the young guy, Tennessee didn't even throw his way. What Tennessee did, and your casual fan won't understand this, they created matchup problems. What they did on every single play is they wanted Alabama safeties to get matched up with their wide receivers, and no safety in college football can cover any wide receiver on a regular basis. That's what Tennessee did, and they said, Hendon Hooker, you can hit the throws. If you hit them, we'll win. If you don't, we lose, and he hit them. I believe Hendon Hooker only overthrew maybe 2 guys, and on one of those, the guy fell down. Josh Heupel is a mastermind when it comes to offense. He finds the mismatches, and he exploits them perfectly. Let me put it into a better perspective so some of y'all can maybe understand. I'm gonna dumb it down the best way I can. It's the same thing in basketball when you do a pick and roll. You want that point guard to get locked on with the center. And more times than not, if a center is matched up with a point guard in the post, he's gonna score. I say that to say this. So just because Tennessee exploited Alabama, it doesn't mean that Alabama's players are bad. It was just a bad mismatch. Sometimes you gotta give credit where it's due, tip your hat to your opponent and say good game. I know it seems like, or at least to me, it feels like I was harsh on Bama in this video. I didn't say any good things. But there is one good thing you can take away from this game. You got the film and tape, so you know what to work on. Sometimes in sports, it isn't all too bad to lose, because you can learn a lot from it. And most people would even go out on a limb and say, sometimes losing is better than winning every game. Because if you win, you never think you need to work on anything, but when you lose, it really puts it into perspective. Just like Tim Tebow said when he lost to Ole Miss in the regular season and went on to win the championship, a lot of good's going to come out of this. I believe that. I am very curious, so let me know your thoughts down below. But